as he sees the A grade. John Doe grabs Serafina by the collar, pulling her close. She looks surprised and worried, while he smiles slyly at her. John smiles subtly, a slight blush on his cheeks, his eyes reflecting a quiet satisfaction after their success. John excitedly taps Serafina's shoulder, smiling broadly as he suggests they get drinks to celebrate their success. John, looking stern and frustrated, argues about the grade, emphasizing that they both worked hard on the project. He crosses his arms, his expression showing clear irritation, likely still processing the unexpected A grade. Moments later, Serafina looks at John Doe with a serious expression, advising him to learn to relax and asking if he's ever had boba. Serafina takes a thoughtful sip, her expression serious as she listens to John Doe. Without warning, Serafina watches with a serious, slightly annoyed expression as she processes the news. Meili holds a drink, looking off, panel with a subtle, contemplative smile, perhaps having accepted the A grade. John smiles gently, content, his eyes reflecting a sense of peace. John and Serafina reach for each other, but a plate with a slice of cake drops between their outstretched hands, scattering crumbs. The boy offers a soft, understanding smile towards Remy, whose pink hair is visible as she faces away. John watches intently, eyes focused, perhaps in deep thought. Ventus, with a slight smirk, declares he's not who they're expecting, apologizing for the disappointment as Remy reacts. The woman in the suit informs the student she'll contact their parents, while the student sits quietly, looking down. Remy continues watching, eyes focused and thoughtful, perhaps still processing recent events. Elaine looks on with a knowing, subtle smirk. She, dressed in a suit, gazes forward with a subtle blush and a serious look. Serafina looks on intently, a subtle blush on her cheek and a serious expression. Remy sits at a desk, focused on writing, as a woman in a suit walks past, her footsteps audible. John walks with a neutral expression, his face showing multiple band-aids as he carries his backpack. John stands indoors, still wearing his backpack and band-aids, holding his jacket as he looks to the side with a neutral expression. John is shown in profile, a band-aid still on his cheek, with a slightly open mouth suggesting a pained or weary expression. John enters a room, his back to the viewer, observing a red punching bag and boxing gloves on a coffee table. John, still covered in band-aids, adjusts his school uniform shirt and tie, holding a jacket. A pair of legs stands over the boy, who has fallen to the ground, his backpack lying beside him. John's face is hardened with a fierce, determined expression, his bandaged cheek highlighting his resolve. John grimaces with effort, pushing off a red surface with his hand as he moves rapidly, his bandaged face showing strain. John grimaces, his bandaged face showing intense strain as he endures a powerful impact, his eyes burning with resolve. John, still bandaged, delivers a powerful punch, his face set in a grimace of intense effort as he connects with his opponent. John grits his teeth, his face contorted in a grimace of intense effort and determination, sweat beading on his skin as he moves rapidly. John's bandaged fist connects with a powerful punch, making a forceful impact against his opponent. John kneels, looking down at the unconscious blue-haired girl lying on the floor, seemingly defeated. John's face shows intense determination, his amber eyes glowing with fierce resolve as he pushes forward. John grits his teeth, his amber eyes glowing with fierce resolve as he delivers a powerful, bandaged punch. John smirks with glowing eyes, while Ventus looks startled by a green energy hand. Arlo also smirks confidently as John reflects on. John watches with a contemplative expression, two other students visible behind him in the background. Arlo smirks with a sly confidence, his eyes gleaming as he. John Doe's bandaged face contorts in a pained grimace, his eyes burning with fierce resolve amidst the intense struggle. Elaine offers a subtle, knowing smile, her light braids framing her face as she observes the scene. John Doe, still bandaged, unleashes a powerful punch, striking a red surface with visible force and determination. Serafina's face is visibly pulled and distorted by hands on either side, creating an unsettling, glitch-like effect over her faint smile. John Doe's eyes burn with intense focus, his brow furrowed, showing visible strain and determination in the ongoing struggle. The red surface buckles and vibrates from the immense force of the powerful strike, showing the impact's intensity. John Doe stands with his bandaged eyes and arm, his head bowed low in a moment of quiet weariness after the struggle. John's bandaged face is slick with sweat, his mouth slightly open as he struggles to catch his breath, showing clear exhaustion. The student's bandaged hand is clenched, his knuckles bruised and bleeding, a clear sign of the painful aftermath from his intense struggle. John Doe stands before the red punching bag, his bandaged arm visible as he prepares for another strike in his training. John, still bandaged, sits on the floor, clutching his head with a pained expression, likely feeling the toll of his intense training. John clutches his head, his bandaged face showing clear pain and exhaustion, with visible scratches on his temple from the intense training. John Doe, his arm still bandaged from training, is now focused on a laptop, typing away. John's bandaged face is seen in a close-up, showing scratches and a bead of sweat. His expression is a mix of determination and pain from his intense training. The student's hand clenches into a tight fist on the table, his knuckles still bruised and reddened from his intense training as sweat drips. John Doe, still wearing bandages over his eyes and cheek, sits looking down, his expression subdued after his intense training. John Doe, his hand still bruised, uses his laptop to call his dad, whose name appears on the screen. John's bandaged cheek and temple are visible as he keeps his gaze lowered, reflecting his subdued state. John sits, still wearing a bandage on his cheek, his subdued expression visible as he looks off to the side. John Doe still wears bandages on his cheek, his face partially obscured as he looks down, deep in thought. John, still bearing bandages on his cheeks, looks forward with a tense, worried expression. John sits at his desk, bandaged on his face and arms, looking down silently. His subdued expression conveys deep thought or weariness. John continues to look down at his device, his bandaged face reflecting a quiet, pensive expression as he processes his thoughts. John's eyes are wide and intense, his brow furrowed with a mix of anger and determination, still bearing bandages and scratches. John's intense eyes convey his deep thought and internal struggle as he looks forward. John's eye shows yellow lines, indicating a sudden jolt or realization. John's bandaged and bruised arm rests on his device as it rings, displaying an incoming call from his father. His bruised hand presses down on the device as it continues to ring, the vibrations clearly felt through his skin. John Doe sits at a table, his head bowed and face bandaged, his injured arm resting on the device. He appears weary from the recent events. Arlo smiles faintly amidst the muted chatter of other students, his eyes obscured. A close-up reveals Arlo's eyes, now glowing an intense red, reflecting his heightened state or activated ability as he focuses intently. John Doe's intense gaze is now filled with fury, his eyes glowing red as he looks forward with a stern expression. John continues walking through the bustling school hallway, his back to the viewer as other students pass by him. John closes his eyes, his expression now pensive, as he seems to reflect on the recent events. John's gaze is now serious, his eyes no longer glowing, as he looks forward intently. Isin watches thoughtfully and with slight concern, his eyes reflecting a moment of quiet contemplation. He offers a confident, slightly knowing smirk, his eyes narrowed. He pauses as Isin watches him thoughtfully and with concern. Isin looks forward, his brow furrowed and a sweat drop visible, reflecting deep concern as he processes the information. He maintains a stern, focused expression, his brow furrowed in deep thought as he considers the situation. The man reveals the person graduated 3 years ago, and Issen reacts with a surprised realization, arms crossed. Holden smirks confidently, his body surrounded by crackling blue energy as he activates his ability. Ventus takes a sip from his teacup, his brow furrowed as he admits he's not entirely sure. The student's mouth is drawn tight, a bead of sweat tracing his cheek, reflecting his intense apprehension in this moment. He pauses, while Issen sits across from him, listening intently and thoughtfully. The man looks sternly, holding his teacup, while expressing his firm stance on the ongoing. Issen closes his eyes, appearing deep in thought or perhaps momentarily overwhelmed by the conversation. Holden holds his teacup. As Issen looks down, his face etched with concern during their discussion about Serafina's suspension. The student stands in the school hallway, looking ahead with a serious, slightly concerned expression on his face. Ventus steps into the hallway, looking slightly surprised as Holden stands partially in the foreground. Holden watches with a concerned expression as Ventus leans far out of a school window, peering down into the campus below. The student gazes thoughtfully out the window, his hand resting under his chin, lost in contemplation. John Doe confronts Serafina, glowing faintly, as Blake, Elaine, and Ventus watch from a distance. John is roughly shoved against a wall by Serafina, who appears to be scolding him. Serafina grins at John Doe, while 2 other students watch with amused smiles from behind. The student in the foreground smiles smugly, while 3 other students in the background echo their confident expressions. Serafina smirks confidently, her eyes gleaming with determination, making it clear she calls the shots. Then, Serafina's powerful punch connects with John Doe, causing him to flinch back with a visible blush from the impact. John Doe's face recoils sharply from a powerful punch, his jaw clenched tightly in the immediate aftermath of the impact. John's amber eye flares with intense focus, a sudden burst of energy radiating from him in this close-up. Serafina grabs John Doe's arm, startling him as he reacts with a pained expression. John Doe lands a forceful punch on Serafina, who reels back, clearly caught off guard. John delivers a powerful knee strike to Serafina, holding her by the arms as she cries out in pain from the impact. John's amber eye burns with fierce determination, his jaw clenched tight as he pushes through the struggle. John's bandaged hand presses forcefully into Serafina, red impact lines suggesting the continued assault as he is verbally attacked. Serafina's face contorts in raw pain, blood streaking across her cheek as tears well up in her wide, shocked eye from a forceful punch. Then, Serafina collapses, clutching her stomach in agony, tears and sweat visible from his forceful punch. John Doe pins Serafina to the ground, asserting his dominance after the intense exchange of blows. She glares intensely, her eyes glowing with anger as she utters a frustrated remark. Elaine's eyes glow golden with an intense glare, her face contorted in a furious expression. Ventus glares intensely, his brow furrowed in anger and determination. Remy lunges forward, her eyes and fists blazing with powerful energy as she yells in concentration. Elaine slams her foot down with visible force, her frustration evident in the powerful stomp. John firmly pins Serafina to the floor as blurred figures with green, orange, and pink hair react to the intense confrontation. John stares intensely, his eyes narrowed and his face etched with fierce determination. John's eyes glow with intense power, his brow furrowed fiercely with anger and resolve. Serafina collapses to the ground, crying out in agony with tears streaming down her face. Blake unleashes a powerful attack, blue energy emanating from her fists and legs as she lunges forward with an intense yell. John Doe kneels, his right hand visibly bandaged, while Serafina remains slumped on the floor beside him. Following the intense confrontation, John Doe stands over Serafina, his expression hidden and hands clenched, an imposing presence. As John Doe watches, the girl charges forward, her fists and legs glowing with blue energy, while Elaine quickly flees. John Doe's eyes burn with intense fury, his brow deeply furrowed, reflecting his unwavering resolve. John Doe watches as students frantically scatter, their forms blurred by their panicked rush to escape the raw power he just unleashed. John Doe's eyes glow with fierce intensity, his brow deeply furrowed, perspiration showing, reflecting his immense strain. John stands alone, surrounded by the unconscious bodies of his opponents, with the girl kneeling nearby in defeat. John, bloodied and... John stands, his back and arms visibly bloodied, as the girl remains kneeling with her head bowed, continuing their tense exchange. The girl looks down, her braided hair framing a somber expression, with faint blush on her cheeks. John Doe's eyes continue to glow with fierce intensity, a slight smirk gracing his bloodied face after the confrontation. John, still bloodied from the intense confrontation, looks down with glowing eyes and a faint smirk, addressing Ventus. The girl's eyes flash with fierce, angry intensity, her brow furrowed as if a realization just snapped into place. John Doe's eyes glow with fierce intensity, his brow furrowed in a silent, lingering stare after the fight. John's bloodied face looks fierce and angry, his eyes narrowed intently, clearly still enraged. Elaine kneels beside John Doe's injured leg, her face obscured by her hair, conveying a sense of quiet despair. John Doe stands, his blue hoodie and shirt visibly stained with blood, his expression weary after the intense fight. The girl remains looking down, her face obscured by her hair, lost in a quiet, somber moment. John Doe's jaw clenches tightly, a guttural growl escaping him, his anger still seething. Elaine cries out, her face contorted in pain as an unseen hand forcefully grabs her by the hair, pulling her back. John Doe's bloodied face contorts in a fierce, angry grimace, his eyes burning as he grips Ventus's hair. Ventus's face is contorted in a grimace of intense pain and effort, his eyes squeezed shut as sweat beads on his brow. Elaine's eye remains squeezed shut, tears or sweat beading near it as she endures the intense pain and struggle. John Doe's amber eye burns with an intense, focused fury, his brow furrowed deeply as he glares. John's grip on Ventus's hair remains firm, his bloodied face still contorted in a furious glare, a silent moment passing between them. John grips the girl's arm tightly, leaving a red mark as she struggles against him, grimacing in pain and demanding he let go. John's bloodied face grimaces through the struggle, his eyes wide and intense from the forceful impact. The girl delivers a forceful slap to John Doe's head, her eyes burning with anger as blood stains his hoodie. Serafina glares intensely, her mouth open in a defiant shout, her eyes burning with fierce emotion as she confronts John Doe. Ventus gently touches John Doe's bloodied arm, his face partially obscured as he stands stunned amidst his injuries. John Doe's bloodied face shows the toll of the ongoing struggle, his eyes narrowed in a fierce, determined glare. John turns away, blood staining his hoodie, as the girl shouts in distress, motion lines emphasizing her forceful reaction. Serafina's face is contorted in anguish and anger, tears streaming from her eyes as she cries out, clearly overwhelmed by the intense situation. John Doe stands, his face still grimacing and bloodied, as Serafina looks up at him, calling him a hypocrite. John's eyes well up with tears, his face contorted in a pained and furious expression as he declares his regret. John's face is contorted in a scream of pain, blood visible on his cheek and shoulder. Sweat drips down his face, emphasizing his intense distress and the impact he's endured. The pink-haired girl defiantly yells, her face contorted in anger and distress, daring her opponent to beat her up as the intense confrontation escalates. John Doe pulls Remy by her shoulder, her face still streaked with tears as she's forcefully moved. John, his face contorted in furious rage, throws a powerful, bloodied punch. His eyes are wide, reflecting the ongoing intensity of his struggle. Remy's face is still contorted in anguish, tears streaming down her cheeks as she clutches her chest, visibly distressed. Moments later, the girl violently punches John Doe's arm, causing blood to spray from his existing injuries as his face twists in pain. John Doe's eyes glow with intense fury, his brow furrowed, perspiration showing, emphasizing his resolve. A brown-haired student is violently slammed to the ground, energy radiating around his body from the impact. Elaine unleashes a powerful kick, striking Ison as vibrant red and blue energy clashes around them in a blur of motion. Serafina lifts John Doe high above her head, his body rigid, as she prepares to throw him with immense force. John Doe stands firm, his face shadowed but his eyes glowing with intense, resolute power, emphasizing his determined stance. John's eyes blaze with fierce determination, his brow furrowed, sweat beading on his temple. Holden screams in intense fury, radiating power as they unleash an attack. John Doe, grimacing, unleashes a powerful punch directly into the girl's back, causing a violent burst of blue energy to erupt. John grits his teeth, his eyes narrowed in pain and resolve as an opponent's energy impacts his arm. His bandaged fist clenches tightly, a clear sign of his intense resolve and determination in the midst of the fight. Blake cries out, his eyes glowing blue, as John Doe's powerful attack sends him reeling from the impact. John Doe's eyes widen in surprise, perspiration showing, as he reacts to the sudden event unfolding. John's body recoils violently from the impact, his eyes wide with a mix of pain and shock. John's eyes gleam with intense resolve, sweat beading on his face as debris flies around him. John looks up from the ground as Arlo stands over him, hands glowing with intense yellow energy, blocking his escape. John's eyes narrow with determination as the student, a blur of speed, rushes past him with a confident smirk. John is violently struck in the back by Elaine, who has an aggressive expression, sending him reeling from the impact. John grimaces, sweat beading on his face and dripping from his open mouth, clearly enduring intense pain or exhaustion. John's eyes narrow with fierce determination, sweat flying as he pushes against the barrier. Ventus delivers a powerful punch to John Doe's face, who recoils from the sudden, forceful impact. John Doe is thrown off balance, his body leaning forward in a strained attempt to regain his footing as debris scatters from his feet. John's eyes burn with defiance, perspiration showing on his face, and a faint scratch visible on his cheek. An enraged Ison brings down his glowing blue fists on John Doe, shouting that this is payback for an earlier hit. John Doe's head snaps back from the student's powerful blow, blood streaming from his mouth, and his eyes wide with pain. John coughs violently, blood splattering from his mouth, as the force of a blow sends him reeling in agony. John lies motionless on the ground after the student's attack, as he nudges him with his foot while Remy and Elaine observe. After the brutal attack, John Doe lies on the ground, blood dripping from his mouth, as an unseen hand forcefully grabs his messy black hair. John Doe's eyes narrow in a pained grimace, sweat on his face as he endures the assault, his defiance unwavering. The student uses his ability, pressing down on John Doe with a menacing smirk. Without warning, the student grabs John Doe by the hair, forcefully pulling his head back as blood trickles from John's mouth, a clear sign of his continued struggle and pain. John Doe's face is a mask of pain and exhaustion, blood trickling from his lip as he struggles to catch his breath. Remy screams in fury, her arm charged with power as she aggressively confronts him. A powerful, blue, glowing fist slams into the side of John Doe's head, the impact sending his hair flying and a sweat drop from his ear. She unleashes a powerful punch, blood splattering from the impact as she strikes with fierce determination. Remy's eyes glow with an intense blue light as tears stream down her face, her expression A. John Doe collapses to the ground from a powerful impact. Remy screams in pain, blood staining her, as Elaine stands by, watching. Elaine supports Isin, who is stained with blood as he clutches his injured arm in obvious pain, still reeling from the sudden impact. At that moment, Elaine places a firm hand on Isin's shoulder, her expression stern with concern as Isin looks utterly terrified, sweating profusely. Ventus looks on sternly, a bead of sweat forming as he pauses in thought. She looks on with a surprised and concerned expression, a bead of sweat forming as she questions if a barrier has appeared. Arlo takes a deliberate step, his foot landing firmly on the ground with a rhythmic tap. No named characters are visible in this panel. John lies injured on the ground, his face bruised and bleeding, eyes open with a pained expression. John's glowing eyes burn with intense focus, his determined expression fixed on something ahead. Arlo clenches his teeth, a strained expression on his face as the yellow glow intensifies around him. Moments later, Arlo offers a slight, somewhat nervous smile as he faces Remy, who grins broadly at him. Then, Arlo's eyes glow with an intense blue light, his stern expression unwavering. He seems ready to deliver a little lesson to someone. A beat later, Arlo's piercing eyes glow intensely, his stern expression unwavering as he focuses on the unfolding situation. Remy looks surprised and slightly flustered, a question mark hovering as a bright glow surrounds Arlo. The boy raises his hands to his head, appearing overwhelmed by the intense yellow glow surrounding him. John Doe hunches over, his hands raised as a powerful yellow glow intensely emanates from him, obscuring his face. Remy stares wide-eyed, a sweat drop visible, showing extreme shock and fear. Arlo places his foot on the head of a kneeling student, demanding to know who gave them the right to speak. Without warning, Arlo's blue eye glows powerfully as he maintains a stern, focused expression in profile. At that moment, Arlo looks sternly, his blue eyes glowing with activated power. The student's hand then firmly grips the bandaged forearm of John Doe. Arlo supports a weary John Doe, who leans heavily on him, his bandaged hands still visible. John Doe, looking dazed, is supported by Arlo. Meanwhile, Remy and Elaine kneel to assist another injured student, as a third glows on them. Arlo's hair frames his face, as his eyes glow intensely, maintaining his stern gaze over John Doe. Rooker's intense eyes glare out, his features set in a stern, determined expression as he is introduced. Arlo looks intently at a document or screen he's holding, his stern expression clearly visible. At that moment, Arlo continues to read the document, which is titled Analysis by Isin. John Doe's face is seen closely, eyes closed, with perspiration showing, suggesting he's in distress or unconscious after the previous events. Dark, heavy clouds fill the sky as small birds fly past, while a deep rumble echoes, signaling an approaching storm or significant event. The scene shows an ominous, cloudy sky. John's eyes are wide and intense, his expression conveying concern as someone calls out his name. Arlo blushes, a bead of sweat forming, his eyes wide with an awkward or embarrassed expression. John Doe's eyes narrow, his brow furrowed in an intense, serious expression, showing his displeasure as he looks forward. John aggressively grabs him by the collar, raising his fist as he looks terrified and quickly apologizes. John's expression darkens dramatically, his eyes narrowing with intense anger and frustration as he hears about Claire. John stares intently at a flushed and sweating Arlo, who looks distressed and overwhelmed by their close proximity. Arlo closes his eyes tightly, his face flushed and covered in sweat, clearly distressed by the new information. John's expression shifts to intense anger, his eyes narrowed and brows deeply furrowed, showing his frustration. John screams in fury, his face contorted in rage, as he seemingly strikes someone or something with intense force, his anger palpable. Arlo recoils, flushed and clutching his head in distress, as John Doe's intense anger continues to overwhelm him. A beat later, Arlo looks up, his face bruised and flushed, a trickle of blood at his mouth, his eyes wide with pain. The boy's anger intensifies, his face contorted in a furious shout, his eyes blazing with outrage. Arlo looks up with wide, distressed eyes, his face flushed and covered in sweat, clearly overwhelmed by John Doe's intense confrontation. John Doe looks down with a serious, intense expression, his eyes narrowed as he reveals that people are gathering behind Arlo's back. John delivers a forceful punch to Arlo's face, causing a small trickle of blood as Arlo's head snaps back from the impact. Arlo's head snaps back from a powerful blow, blood gushing from his nose and mouth as he grimaces in intense pain. Without warning, Arlo clutches his profusely bleeding nose, his eyes squeezed shut in pain and distress as he listens to John Doe's harsh words. A figure stands over a bleeding boy, who calls out his name. The figure declares that he's been behind the boy since day one. Then, Arlo grimaces in pain, his eyes wide and watery as blood streams from his nose and mouth, his hand covered in blood from the impact. John Doe's words continue, warning that if things keep going on like this, Arlo will lose everything. John wears a smug, confident smirk. John shouts fiercely at Arlo, his eyes blazing with intense anger as he continues his furious confrontation. John continues to shout furiously, extending his arm in a forceful gesture, ordering someone out of his sight with intense anger. John Doe observes as students flee in terror, their faces contorted in fear as they desperately try to escape the escalating situation. After the intense confrontation, numerous figures lie sprawled across the ground, defeated and unconscious. Multiple students lie defeated on the ground after an intense confrontation. John Doe glares intensely, his face bruised and bleeding from the fight, reflecting his deep-seated rage and determination. Bruised and bleeding, John Doe looks enraged. The scene fades to black, a silent, empty panel marking a pause after John Doe's intense confrontation with the girl. John Doe's eyes snap open wide, his brow furrowed in intense shock or realization, a bead of sweat forming. John, still bandaged and bruised, reacts with a surprised and pained expression, recoiling from an unseen force with a shocked. John's intense eyes narrow with a determined glare, a bead of sweat trickling down his face as the confrontation's aftermath lingers. Arlo glares intensely, his eyes narrowed and looking stern, as if confronting someone new. John Doe delivers a forceful punch, sending Arlo's head snapping back from the impact of the blow. Arlo takes a powerful punch directly to the face, his stern expression unwavering despite the visible impact. Suddenly, the student. Still bruised and bandaged, John Doe angrily confronts Arlo, grabbing his tie and shouting, demanding to know why he helped him. John Doe's face is contorted with furious anger, his eyes narrowed and mouth open as he shouts, still holding Arlo's tie tightly. Arlo maintains a stern, piercing gaze, his hand adjusting his collar after the other student's aggressive grip. He looks unyielding despite the confrontation. Moments later, Arlo, still looking stern, tells John Doe not to be so full of himself as John's hand pushes his away. He shoves Arlo down, pinning him against the ground. Arlo lies still, eyes closed, seemingly incapacitated after their intense confrontation. John Doe's hand tightens its grip on Blake's tie, holding him in place during their heated exchange. Arlo's eyes narrow intensely, his expression stern and unwavering as he processes the other's furious demand. John Doe glares intensely, his eyes narrowed and his face still bearing faint marks from his injuries, as he speaks with a menacing expression. Arlo lowers his head, looking down in apparent submission, as John Doe continues his intense confrontation.